Hey guys, if you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please know that help is available. Call now at 833-999-1877 or click the Info Addiction help link on the top right corner of this video. Addiction specialists are available to offer support 24/7.
Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. All right, hey, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Brian Alzate, and today I have my good friend, also Brian, with an eye on the show.
Yes, sir.
What's up, bro? How are you?
Good, man. Good. Can't complain.
How old are you?
I am 38.
Damn, bro.
I know.
About to be 40, dude.
Calm down, bro. Listen, I'm not 40 yet.
Not 40
you know what I'm saying?
yet.
Let's be honest.
Okay.
It's, 38's 38.
Mhm.
You know,
There you go. You're 38.
Yeah,
like
38.
I said, yeah.
There it is. It's crazy, man. I've known you for
Long time.
long time.
8 years? Well, we knew each other before that.
No, yeah. So I actually met you when you first came around.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a long
When I
time
first
ago.
got clean, like North Broward meetings, right?
Yeah, like the West Broward Club and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I've been sponsoring you how long now?
A little over 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah.
How long you been clean? 10 years?
So my clean date is 1/29/2012. So a little over 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
It's dope. Yeah, it's so crazy, like having a decade clean, right?
At this point, and I hate saying it, it would be more of like an ego thing if I were to go back out there. Just because I don't know if I could be that guy to come back after giving up that much time. Because
Yeah.
like I hear people say it all the time, like, oh, like you'll congratulate somebody on like how much time they have, and man, you got 7 years, or man, you got 10 years, and people don't realize 11 years takes 11 years. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. A lot of ebbs and flows in that. And
Yeah, I was talking in the
We'll
last
get to
episode
that.
about like Joe Rogan telling like Russell Brand that he should try ayahuasca or something like that.
yeah,
It's like, bro, I don't care what spiritual benefit any of that shit has. Like, I would never give up my clean time. Like, my clean time is so valuable to me. And I had done so many psychedelics anyways. It's like, bro, I'm not searching for anything. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I looked for shit my whole life. It's like, bro, I found it and I got it and like I'm holding on to it.
there's really not a feeling that any kind of substance could give me that I probably haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I went down that whole rabbit hole of trying pretty much everything. And I think that the only thing I haven't tried and wouldn't plan on trying is fentanyl. You know what I mean? Just because that wasn't around when I was using. And then it's like Trank. I forget the actual name for it. It's I forget what it is, but that's another thing. I mean, everything now is like, granted, I mean, all drugs are man-made, but everything now is pretty much chemical and synthetic, and that's the
Back
problem.
in my day, we had real heroin.
That's the thing, man. It was like, if people died, it was because,
was
they
good
did
shit.
too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, and you
know.
were looking for it,
Yeah, and now there's not like a real measurement of potency.
No, it's not. And it's crazy because like people will go out and they get caps, but they get it like fentanyl.
Yeah.
And you don't know because every one cap could have a little bit more than the last one. You know what I mean? You may be used to doing 2-3 caps in a day, but
Dude, we have people who did coke and it was laced with fentanyl and they died.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. I know a couple people that actually that happened to,
crazy.
which is sad. And you've been around for a long time, and when you've been around for this long, and this isn't my first go round, not my first like 12-step experience. You know what I mean? Like I started this, I think like in like 05 is when I was like first introduced to like a 12-step program. Since then, I mean, I could literally, it's not an exaggeration, like fill a notebook of like people that I've met that have died.
Yeah, the amount of people the amount of death we experience is not normal in any other community.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing else like being in recovery that you experience so much death other than like maybe, having cancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like we become so close with each other and have so many relationships and meet so many people, especially in South Florida. The recovery community is just so insane.
Yeah.
Man, we watch a lot of people die and bury a lot of people, go to a lot of funerals. No one really prepares you for that.
When I do speak or something like that, or like a lot of times if I share or something like that at a meeting that I go to, I bring up the fact that like death is so like predominant in the recovery community that like all you literally become is a Facebook post.
Yeah.
And people talk about you for a day or two, and unless you're really, really close to that person, you're just.
But then what? Two
That's
Facebook
it.
posts?
That's it. Yeah. Like you have a couple people talking about you, like, oh, did you hear so and so died? And
Yeah.
oh yeah, I saw the post. You know what I mean? Man, that's crazy. And then that's it.
Yeah, and then it's like, and the thing is with death, it's like what else do you expect people to do? Like not move on with their lives, It's like, yeah, man. And death can also like hold you back in your life. Like, dude, I've had a couple of deaths that like, man, months would go by and I lose like sense of time. Like I had one person die.
Yeah.
And then like 7 months later, this other person died. But in my mind, I thought it was right,
like back
to back.
Yeah.
And for years, I would be like, oh, well, this person died, and like right after this other person died. In my mind, it was back to back.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like probably a year ago why I was looking up their dates of when they died. I was like, wow, that was like 7 months apart. But like, dude, it does something to your being where like you don't feel like you're living life and time just kind of drifts away from you and you have no concept of like the present moment.
I feel like probably the most serious death that I had, and it wasn't even like recovery related, you know what I mean, was my brother-in-law. And I just say that because, he wasn't even my brother-in-law in my mind because my sister and him were together since I was like 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
So he was basically like my
your
brother. Yeah. And it was just wild how that happened. Like he had his own demons too. And I say demons just because he struggled with different things. You know what I mean? He struggled with different substances, you know what I mean? Alcohol and different things like that too. And I mean, he wasn't in any kind of program, but like he was the kind of person where like when he wanted to stop, he would stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he would call me like at different times when things were bad and be like,
for support. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Brian, I don't know what to do. I fucked up. You know what I mean? And like, this is what's going on. And like, and when he passed, it was like a wild story, like on what happened. Like he was like kind of laid off that time, came back from somewhere or whatever, asked my niece, he's like, do you want anything from the store? I'm going up to Wawa. She's like, no, I'm good. He left. She went to sleep. My sister works like crazy hours. She works like in hospitals and stuff like that, doing like radiology. So she came back like 5 a.m. and he wasn't there. His truck wasn't there. She's like, what the hell's going on? Wakes my niece up. She's like, hey, where's your dad at? She's like, I don't know. He said he was going to Wawa. You know what I'm saying? Or he was leaving a little while ago, or like this last night, whatever. My sister drove around and found him in a Wawa parking lot that he had been in since like whatever time it was that he left the night before, blood in his nose, like passed out, and like not a person like called the cops or said anything, like, and it's like, and I live like I'm from like a small town like in New Jersey, to where like people would say something normally, you know what I mean? And she like tried to bring him back, like he was alive but like wasn't conscious.
What was it?
He had like a stroke.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And like my sister, like who was with him forever, like was the one that was there like trying to resuscitate him and like at the hospital with them and stuff like that. And like that fucked my nephew up for a while too. And I'll tell you, because like they didn't have a great relationship. I don't know why. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, he kind of brushed his father off. And then at the end, like his father passed, you know what I mean? And he couldn't do anything about it. I kind of became like the like male figure in his life. You know what I mean? So he calls me for things, you know what I mean? Which is cool. You know what I mean? And I think that's the wild part about like when you've been clean for a long time, is that like the people that like wouldn't answer your phone calls are now calling you for help.
Tables turn.
Yeah, tables turn, man. It's wild. It's wild. But that was like the one death that like,
yeah, it's crazy that like at any given point you can have a stroke or die, and life is so fragile, bro.
Just from like your own standpoint, like anything can happen to you, but like you just don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's God knows how many people that pretty much like leave their house and just never make it home. Like just wild shit happens out there. Yeah, like I feel like right now, like all you really see, I don't watch the news just because it's all negativity for the most part, but like
find out how your car can kill you, or like it's always
like shootings and different things like that, and like
it's always like find out why the milk you're drinking could cause extreme death.
It's never like how to make your life better. It's like
it's always like stay tuned for this one piece of information that could.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about like 30 people that were murdered in the past, whatever, and just I don't know. I mean, I try not to watch it.
Yeah, it's so negative. It's crazy. There's this documentary about like America versus like other countries. The guy goes to Canada and he's like watching the news, and like the news is about like new speed bumps getting put in and like just like regular things.
Yeah, regular stuff.
You just have like positive news. Yeah.
Speaking of Canada, I mean, they actually have dope holes that are legal now.
Really?
Yeah, like you could go in and like you can buy
heroin?
buy heroin, buy coke, buy, you know what I'm saying, and like
So like it's like a safe space
it's a
for
safe space.
drug dealers, or
Yeah.
they're
Not for drug dealers, for drug users. You know what I mean?
okay. Yeah, it's for yeah. They have like shooting galleries. Like
Yeah, but like it's now a
in-
gallery where you can go and buy it.
wait, who sells it? A drug dealer or the
Company
government?
I don't know if it's I mean, I'm sure the government's taxing the shit out of it, but
But wait, it's like a company that's selling heroin legally, or if it's a drug
I saw
dealer.
it popped up on like a feed that I had where basically it was like, and it was like a pretty much like a picture of like the sign they had out front, and it was like heroin up to 2 grams per person, and it had like a price on it.
No,
I swear on everything I love. Go ahead, you could look that
How do you
up.
feel about that?
I mean, I don't know. Kind of.
Is it pure heroin?
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Is it cut? Is it
probably
fentanyl?
good. No, it's probably not. That's the thing. Like I
Like, is
feel
a
like
pharmaceutical company?
I feel like it's good on the aspects that, like, if it's someone that's not ready to get clean, right, and they're in active addiction, it's a safe place. For the simple fact that, like, you have other people around you. I guarantee you they have Narcan and other drugs to resuscitate you if something were to happen. And you know that what you're getting, isn't cut 10 ways till Sunday with some wild shit that will just kill you.
Man, I just think that they should just put all that effort into like long-term treatment.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I'm not like against like these safe spots where people can shoot up in and shit like that, and like giving out needles and syringes and clean water and stuff, but it's like throwing a fucking.
But here's the thing with that. Like, I agree with what you're saying with the treatment aspect of things. But like, you could lead a horse to water. You know what I mean? Is really what it is.
Yeah, but they don't have water.
But no, my point. No, they have a different. They have a different health system than we have.
I don't know how readily available it is to get long-term treatment, because I don't know how it is in Canada, but it's like here, it's like, bro, trying to get a week of treatment is crazy.
Yeah.
If you don't have insurance, it's like, what are you going to do,
I'm just saying, if there's a will, there's a way. And on top of that, like with the treatment side of things, is that like,
yeah, there's a will, there's a way, but it's like you can also make it a lot easier. It's like, dude, you can have the water over here. You could have it like up in a mountain somewhere,
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Access can make it a little easier.
The point I was getting at was that they've got to hit their own bottom. You know what I mean? And even with the shooting gallery, and even with where they can buy drugs legally and stuff like that, that feeling of desperation is still there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And once you hurt enough, that's when you seek help.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know. Like, when people always ask me, like, how do you feel about this? I don't have like much of an opinion on this. Like, I don't know if that really does anything, or it's fucking, a good thing for them. Is if it's saving lives? Like, what are the statistics on it? Is it really
I don't know.
stopping people from overdosing? Or
I don't think it's stopping people, but I mean, it is. It's a safe spot. Just because at least for down here, like, I know that if I had the money and I was in active addiction.
Finding a place to get high is so hard.
Yeah. There's
Especially if you're smoking crack, being at the 7-Eleven bathroom with the fucking wooden key on the counter. You're just people banging on the door.
Yeah, you come out sweating 30 minutes later.
Sweating.
Eyes like the size of like a 50-cent piece, you know what I'm saying? And you can't even, you're just jaw going, and you can't even make a sentence work. You know what I mean? You know what you're saying, but it's not coming out. Yeah, no. That's, a safe haven would be good for that. But I mean, see, the other thing is this, though, is that especially down here, if someone knew that they had to go pay $100 for a gram of something at a safe place, or like a gram of something, or they could pay $100 for 2 grams from some dope hole, they're going to the dope hole. Like, that's how drug addicts work. You know what I'm saying? If I can get 2 for 1 instead
I don't know what their prices are.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. But I know if I can get more for less, and I'm getting high, that's where I'm going. But
yeah, for sure. I don't know. You do have people that would buy pills over heroin because they wanted to know what they were getting,
But even now, you don't know.
I know. Now the
pills are pressed. You know what I'm saying?
Every time I see those fake pills, I'm like, those don't look real.
But people know, though. People know when they're buying them. They know they're pressed.
Yeah, they still buy them.
They still buy them. They're like,
That's crazy.
They're like, it's an M30. You're like, why does it have an R on it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's good. You're good. You got this. You know what I'm saying?
It's the color, bro. The color looks all fucking off.
It's like purple. It's not light blue. That was a whole other time down here that was crazy, man, when it was like
pressing pills.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people talk about that. Not the pressing pills, but when the pill mills were down here, and I've heard other people talk about it on here too, and it's just, that was wild. You know what I mean? And that brought a lot of people, to their knees, man.
Yeah. And
me being one of them.
It kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. It's like, okay, more treatment centers. Oh, you can't lead a horse to water. But when there's a shit ton of water, it makes it easier to drink.
Yeah.
Just like when there's a shit ton of pills and access to pills, you create a whole bunch of people that are easier to get addicted to it. If the pills were like more regulated and not just handed out like candy, there'd be less addiction. Clearly, that's why they got sued billions of dollars for all this bullshit. So it's like, bro, if there was so much treatment that it would just be like impossible to get help or impossible to not get help, it would definitely benefit people. Whether they, because sometimes it's like, bro, sometimes people don't even want to get clean and they get clean.
Yeah, I feel like dude, I've heard a lot of people like in different meetings where basically they share about the fact that like they were court ordered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they came.
The statistics are the same. Yeah. If you're court ordered or you're volunteer, your chances of staying clean are exactly the same.
Yeah, because I mean, you come and all of a sudden like you hear something. You know what I mean? And that one thing clicks. You know what I mean? And that's
sometimes you just follow the rules for no reason. You know, sometimes like you don't even know why.
Yeah.
You're just not using. You just like gave it a shot and.
Or it's correlated, whatever, and you know that like you have to stay clean, and all of a sudden you're clean, and you're like, wow, this shit's actually, my life's getting better. Like, wait a second, maybe there is something I need to do here, you know? And you kind of fall in line, and you see, like when you're around, man, and you hear different stories, and you see people like, you may run into someone, especially if you're like from that area, where like the last time you saw them was a couple years ago, and you went to go cop a bag with them, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you see them, they're pulling up like in a new car and they got a job and like they look healthy, you know what I'm saying? And like they're in shape and like, you're like, wait a second, like, is that so-and-so? Like, and you're like, it's wild. And you talk to them and like, you realize like, oh shit, like maybe this is what I need to do, you know? For me, it was just a matter of like that desperation, you know what I'm saying? Like I go to a different level, like when I'm using, like most people, you know what I mean? I'm an addict. It's really what it is, you know? It's kind of been like that, like with everything. If I like it, that's what I'm saying. If I like it, I'm like overkill on it. You know what I mean? Like now it's like that with fishing for me.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, like I'm out there heavy. You know what I mean? People don't understand. Like that's like my meditation. You know what I'm saying?
I had a
like,
sponsor once who was crazy addicted to fishing.
Yeah, dude. It literally is just, it's a different, like when you're doing that, like you're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah,
you're not thinking about anything else, and it's like
that's how I feel about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Or like racing cars.
Same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's another thing that I love too is cars. You know what I mean? And those are like two things that were like always in my life.
In recovery or just in society in general, people like throw around the word addiction. And it's like, dude, you're not addicted to fishing. You know what I mean? So it's like, you like fishing. You know, I like cars. But sometimes we say we're addicted to it. Yeah. But like, you know, in my opinion, it's like, dude, an addiction like destroys your family, ruins your mental health, kills your spirituality, and fucks up like your wherever you're living. Yeah. So it's like, are you just really passionate about fishing?
Yeah,
you just love fishing.
I'm passionate.
Yeah, of course.
Fishing,
and you love fishing.
Like I'm not gonna not pay rent next month to like go buy a new fishing pole.
You're not lying to your girl about like I'm fishing. You're not. Maybe you are. Yeah. A little bit.
No, you know it's funny. It's like I saw like a meme the other day, and it was like this guy like on the phone with like his wife, and he's like, hey, yeah, you know, it's my last cast. I'll be home soon. And he like hangs the phone. He like looks at his buddy that he's with, and he's like, knowing damn well it's not his last cast. They got a cooler full of bait. You know what I mean? It's, you know, but at the end of the day, like that's, if fishing is my vice, like I'll get heavy into different things, and like the things that I'm heavy into now are like good for me. And for that's good for like my mental health.
Hobbies.
It's good for like my mental health. You know what I'm saying? In my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so.
We could be into gambling.
I was... that was a vice I had too at one point, and that one wasn't healthy. Yeah, that one was not healthy. Yeah, it's the best way to put it.
I remember I sponsored this kid who told me he was a professional gambler, and all of his sponsors don't understand, and you know, call me every day. He's like, "Yeah, I did good today at work." Like at the casino, right? Yeah. And then he called me. He's like, I lost everything. I need to stop gambling. I was like, dude, what's going on? I thought you were a pro gambler. He's like, no, I'm only a pro when I'm winning. I'm actually a degenerate gambler. There's a big problem. I'm like,
well, at least he was honest. You know what I mean? Dude, I went through.
It's just crazy how we could, because like he wasn't joking. He was dead serious in the beginning. Like, I'm a pro gambler.
He was trying to sell it to himself. Yeah. That's all it really was. You know what I mean? He was up a little bit, you know, he thought he was killing the game, and you know, everything's great. I'm good at this. I'm a pro. You know what I mean?
Everything. He's like, bro, people back me and da-da-da-da. And then he was like, I need to stop gambling.
I mean, I've told you my stories, you know what I mean? And kind of what made me walk away from it, you know? And at one point it was like the whole like blackjack and high limit slots. And like, there was like a time in my life where like gambling did help me pay bills. You know what I mean? And it was you know, it's like a part of my story, you know what I mean? And just kind of back when, this is back in like 05, 06, you know, when the Hard Rock had like, there was the old Hard Rock, the new Hard Rock wasn't like redone yet. And they used to have like these little like sit and go like $40 tournaments, but like they'd pay out $200.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just got into like a new field, you know, a different like career or whatever. And like, it was barely paying me anything, like while I was pretty much like an intern, you know what I mean? And I would use that to like pay bills. Like I would go play like little mini tournaments and I'd win I win enough to make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm switching my careers, so I'm doing now, but like,
it was extra cash.
But yeah, but it was extra cash to pay bills and it worked.
Let's get into your story. So you're from Jersey.
Yeah.
But you moved to Florida young, right?
Yeah. So I'm from Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, which is pretty much like if you fly into the Atlantic City airport, that's Egg Harbor Township. So it's like right outside of Atlantic City. I was born in like Philadelphia, raised in South Jersey. And the whole thing was like, so my dad moved out like when I was like 7. And my mom, like she did her best. Like, I don't care. I'll say it. I'm a mama's boy. Like she did everything she could for me. You know, he moved out and he lived like in the same town. So he would try to like make an effort to like do things for me and be there for me. But like, there's only so much you can do when you see your kid like once a month, you know what I mean? Or something like that, you know? And for me, it was pretty much like, I didn't have like any like male supervision is really what it was. So like, I'd find myself like surrounding myself with like older people, older guys and different stuff like that and like hang out with. And like one thing, as I was saying before, with that like I've always got into was like cars, you know what I mean? Like ever since I was a little kid, like I could tell you what kind of car it was, like in a car seat at night, like wild. Like my mom would like wake me up to go watch like Miami Vice and like
I still remember
Magnum
that feeling.
PI and like it was wild.
I still remember that feeling of being in the backseat of my mom's car and there was like a 360 Modena and I'd be like, oh my God, Mom, it's a Ferrari, get next to it.
Yeah. And
like that feeling, like, you know, that's like the best, bro.
And that was the thing too. So when my dad moved out, the neighbor that had moved in next door, what he did was he would like rebuild Chevelles from like the frame up. So I'd be like over there every single day, just watching this guy and like learning different things and stuff like that. I just had a love for cars, man. You know, and same thing, like I love fishing, I loved cars, and like I was like real big like into like extreme sports. Like we had like a BMX track that was like right by my house, and like I'd race and ride BMX, and like then it was like, you know, skateboarding was another thing I was really into, snowboarding, different things like that.
Sports?
Yeah,
just played sports.
Played sports, man.
Okay.
Played sports, you know, and that was the thing. You know, but also
you can skateboard. You can't skateboard.
I mean, you know,
Kickflip.
Could I now?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay.
If you gave me like a day or two to kind of get like warmed up again.
Okay.
Yeah, I could.
All right.
Even at one point, like I went to like Woodward. And that was like a super cool experience, bro.
That was my dream as a kid.
Bro, listen, the wild.
Was it cool?
This is the craziest thing ever. So I went there, and that was like the one thing. Like my mom made sure that like my dad would like, he didn't do much for me. But she made sure that like he helped contribute for like to me to go to like a private school.
Okay.
Like I went to like a Catholic school just because it was like the class size was like, you know, 20 kids per grade. Until I went to high school, I was in like a Catholic school. And like the learning was different. You know what I mean? Like I was learning like algebra when I was in like 7th grade. You know what I mean? Which was good. But like, so she made sure he paid for my school. And then like, if there was something big that like I really wanted, now with Woodward, like he kind of contributed. I went there when I was like 15. You can only be 16 up to 16 when you go.
Wow.
And like I went there with like 2 other kids from my hometown and another kid that was like, he wasn't related to me by blood, but like my dad had got remarried and it was like, he was kind of like some kind of like second, third cousin type weird shit. I don't know what it was. So when I went, Woodward was cool, man. It was set up where there was like different rows of cabins. You know what I mean? So you had like the rollerbladers and like one row of cabins. You had like
they separated by
damn straight. Listen,
Okay.
you know how it is, man. You can't have like the fruit booters next to like the skateboarders. You know what I mean? That's just the way, not the way it goes. You know. Then you had like the BMXers. You know what I mean?
I used to do both.
Yeah, you definitely did both. But anyway, so and then attached to that was like a cheerleading camp on the other side too. It was weird, right? So you know, you're young. There's like. You would go like this like chow hall type thing and there'd be like cheerleaders there and like, you know, whatever. But like the cool thing was like the week that I went, they were actually filming this video. It was for, man, I got to think what brand it was for. I don't know, but it was Andy Reynolds and Bob Burnquist were there. And Bob Burnquist.
Burnquist is a fucking man.
Listen to this. I will swear on everything on my life on this one, man. Bob Burnquist was my bunkie.
What?
He stayed like in the cabins with us, bro. And like the way it was set up was like there was bunks. Like in each one.
He must have been young, huh?
He was young, dude. You got to think, I was 15 then, so this was basically 1999.
Okay.
Right? So he was young back then. And this is back like he was there filming a video with like Andy Reynolds. And like Woodward was cool because there was like 7 or 8 indoor parks, like 6 or 7 outdoor parks. You know what I mean? Then they had like a go-kart track, all kinds of like, it was cool, man. It was like probably like one of the coolest weeks ever. You know what I mean? When I was young. And at that point, like I wasn't like using. I had smoked weed and stuff like that. It wasn't like a daily thing for me or nothing like that. Like I actually tried smoking weed when I was really young because I was hanging out with a bunch of kids. Like where I lived, it was called like Zion Zoo. It was like a shitty little like neighborhood in Egg Harbor Township. You know, I tried smoking weed like when I was really young, and then that's what I got into. I got into like smoking weed and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything like crazy. Like I tried other drugs and stuff like that in high school. Where everything kind of changed was on 4/20/2003. I had this truck that I built. First truck I ever built. It was an S10 with a small block in it. It was lowered. And I brought it to this place called Belle Plaine, which is like a state forest there in New Jersey. Go out there and there's like these cars lined up. I got my truck parked. I'm going to walk across the street, and this drunk kid riding an ATV hits me doing like 60 miles an hour. Like literally hits me out of my shoes. That's where everything changed.
Wow.
My mind, I'm like an hour away from anywhere. I either like wait for an ambulance and then got to wait another hour, or like what I did was I had these people like carry me to my truck. So I got like a compound fracture. The bones are coming outside of my leg. I got like all kinds of breaks in there. I'm in a lowered truck, which you've been in lower cars before, where every little bump you feel. And I'm following this guy for like 45 minutes to an hour. And we pull into a place like a cancer center. It's not even a hospital anymore. And at that point, like the shock had wore off. Shock wears off. Like they come and they get me in an ambulance. I'm like, all right. So I go into like the ER there. You know, they're waiting to bring me up for surgery. Like these 2 like state troopers come in. And this like lady walks by, a nurse, like with her elbow, like holding like some kind of clipboard. My foot's like finally in a position where like the bones aren't out the side. Like I got it like kind of like in a stable position. And she hits my leg.
No.
She hits my leg. I reach up to swing at her, right? Like it's like, I don't hit women, but like it was like a chain react. Like she literally like walked by, bumped my leg, and the whole bone.
Oh my God.
So I go to swing at her. I get like karate chopped in the throat by like the state trooper. Like he wasn't like, he understood like what happened. And crazy enough is like where I experienced my first overdose was in a hospital. And it's because back then I was in like some little hospital in the sticks in like Newcomb, New Jersey, it was called. And what happened was after I had surgery, they were paper logging medications. And the lady came in, she gave me medications, like it was dilaudid or something like that, whatever, she didn't log it. So when the next nurse came in, she thought I didn't have medications for like 6 hours or 8 hours. And she like doubled my medications on top of what the lady gave me and flatlined me. So now like I come to like basically after being flatlined in like ICU now.
What?
Yeah, I'm like in ICU and like.
That's so crazy. Like honestly, that's why I love the podcast, because I've known you like for so long. We've done like all the steps together, and I still have never heard this.
Yeah, so I come to like an ICU, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, cause there was like a blank space. You know, there wasn't like, I was probably down for like a minute or something like that. You know what I mean? They brought me back, all that kind of stuff, whatever. But they fucked up decently, and you know, at that point, that's where like things got bad. Granted, like in the hospital, all they were giving me like Tylenol 3s because they had fucked up. So I get out though, had this surgeon, this guy, Dr. Baker. The guy was like, he ended up becoming like a father to me. And I say that because I was in his office like 2 to 3 times, like a month at one point. Then it was like once a week. Then it was like twice a week. And it's because like they couldn't figure out what was going on with my leg. I kept having like staph infections, and like they didn't know if it was like sticking to the rod, and they did like 12 different surgeries, and like,
wow.
You know, I had like from the staph infection, I had like this IV like PICC line, and like back then too, it was like now I'm on like these medications. They're giving me like perk 10s, and then I had like another doctor who was like an internal medicine doctor. She's giving me perks. Then I had like another doctor, like my primary care, giving me medications, and I'd run out of one and I'd call the other doctor, and then like, so I had like 3 different scripts, because this is before like they were like logging things. Like now you couldn't do that. Now everything's logged in the system and they know, you know, and that's like where things got bad, man. Like it, and then, you know, obviously eventually I went in 2 different surgeries, and they told me it was like 50% chance like you're losing your leg. And that was a fucking wild feeling, you know?
Wow.
And they basically told me like, if we do save it, like you're never going to walk the same. You're never going to be able to ride a bike. You're never like limp, like, you know, and all that stuff I don't have now, which is cool, you know. But so what happened was, so I get done with that. I'm on the pills. They stopped giving me the pills, and I'm buying the pills. You know what I mean? I had this kid living with me, and he had like a fucked up childhood. He couldn't stay at home. His stepdad was a piece of shit. And my mom, you know, basically like brought him into our house. And he was on dope. He was on heroin. And I come back the one day and like I couldn't find pills. And he's like, bro, listen, why don't you save some money and buy this? You know what I mean? Instead of spending, this is back when like Oxy 80s were out. Instead of spending $20 on an 80 and you're doing like 4 a day, you could spend $20 on 2 bags and you're good. All right, sweet. You know what I mean? And that's what I did.
Snorting it at first?
Snorted it first, yeah. I've always had, ever since like I was a kid, I had a fear of needles, which is wild. Like I can't get blood. A lot of
people don't. You can't? You don't like it?
I can't. I pass out.
Really?
I swear to God, I pass out. And it's all because when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, I went in the hospital. I had pneumonia. The lady missed my IV like 10 times, that big ass needle. And ever since then, nope, can't do it.
Wow.
I tried giving blood like to get over that, and I passed out. I was like, did I do it? And the lady's like, nah, you passed out. I'm like, fuck, man,
wow.
This is bullshit.
When I was a kid, I always liked that feeling.
So I like it when I have control of it.
Okay.
Right. So what happened was this. I came back the one day, I walk in the room. I didn't know he was shooting up.
Like the needles you shoot up with are very different than the hospital ones. People don't realize
100%.
It's like 100%. A hairline needle.
Yeah, it's like you barely see the needle, you know what I'm saying? Like you feel a little prick and like you have control over it. That's like the big difference.
Yeah.
So I come back the one day and I come in the house and I see him. I open the door and he's shooting up. And I'm like, bro, what's up? And he's like, dude, I don't know if you want to try this. And I'm like, nah, like I want to. You know what I mean? So sure enough, like I let him shoot me up the first time. And from there I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm missing. Right. So.
How old were you?
Well, that happened 4/20/2003, like like the accident. So, I mean, I was like 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
Right. So I started shooting up, you know what I mean? And at that point, it was just like, it was over. You know what I mean? Shit got bad fast. Like once I got that level, I'll never forget, man. I came home. I think I had like went and stole different stuff from Best Buy. At that point, like I found like a lick, you know what I mean? I was like these memory cards for like PlayStation 2s. And like they didn't have like a sensor on them. I'd go in, I'd grab like 15 packets. You know what I mean? I walk right out of Best Buy and like I go sell them for like $10 a memory card.
Yeah, I remember those.
Great lick. But so I had just done that. I came home, like I'm high as a kite, and I pull in my driveway and I see like my dad's wife's car is my driveway, which is weird, right? So it's like my stepmom and my mom are like at the house, and I come in, they're both sitting at the table and they're talking, and they're like, hey, like sit down, like we need to have a talk. I'm like, all right. So I sit down and I knew shit was bad. You know what I mean? And they're like, all right, listen, like we know something's going on. Like we don't know how deep it is, you know what I'm saying? But we think you need help. And I was like, I do. That was like the first time that I went to treatment. And I went to a place in New Jersey. I was there for a little while. They sent me down to Florida. I was at the place in Florida for a little bit. I talked my way out of it. This is like the one thing where like, there's certain things you can't change happened. You know what I mean? You wish you could, but it's like, I'm always going to have to live with this. So I talked my way out of it. I'm like, you know, it's my grandmother's birthday. My birthday's coming up. Like I come home, like I
fucking hate when people say shit like that.
Yeah, I dope fiend the shit out of my mom. You know, I'll say it now. You know what I mean? And bringing me home, I come home as soon as I get home. Like, oh, I need some money. I'm going to go out to eat with friends. Right to the dope house. Right to the dope house. So I'm getting high right off the bat. Wasn't even like back in New Jersey for like an hour.
Hey guys, if you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please know that help is available. Call now at 833-999-1877 or click the Info Addiction help link on the top right corner of this video. Addiction specialists are available to offer support 24/7.
Welcome to the Genesis House powered by the United Recovery Project. Located in sunny South Florida, we offer drug and alcohol addiction treatment as well as a major focus on dual diagnosis. Our addiction therapy programs include behavioral therapy, 12-step facilitation, psychotherapy, life skills training, and more. At our facility, you can expect a low client-to-staff ratio, daily group therapy, weekly one-on-one therapy sessions, and luxury amenities such as volleyball, basketball, pool, chiropractor, personal trainer, yoga, massage therapy, and more. Contact the United Recovery Project today and let's create a better tomorrow.
My grandma got sick. I go to see her and like she like helped raise me with my mom. You know, I go to see her. My mom calls me. She's like, "Hey, where are you? We're going to see your grandmother. Like things aren't looking good." You You know what I mean? She had seen everyone in the family. She's in and out of consciousness. You know what I mean? And we don't know how long she's gonna like live. So I go, I'm like, oh, I'll be home in a minute. I'm trying to find dope. You know what I mean? I come home. We got to drive to Philly at that point, and I'm high as a kite, right? And I get in there and like, I hold her hand. It's just me and her in the room. She like opens her eyes. She smiles at me, and she didn't know what was going on. She had seen everybody else in the family. I get there. She smiles at me, and then like 20 minutes later, she died.
Wow.
And it was like literally like she was waiting just to see me before she went. You know, and I can't, like, I was high as a fucking kite. You know what I mean? And I can't change that. You know what I mean? It was bad. And it was like shortly thereafter, like a month after, I was like, I got to get out of here. And I came back down. You know, this time I went to a different place in Florida in like Fort Pierce, and went through treatment there. And I was like, you know, I'm going to stay down here. I'm going to stay down here. And I got out of treatment, went to this halfway house in Pompano off Sample. And this kid, like, I was set up. Like, I was good.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, I had a job lined up. I had met this guy when I was in treatment. He was like VP for like the steel company, like set me up with a job. I had an interview, like making good money. I was supposed to start on Monday. It's like Friday. And this kid's like, yo, I relapsed. Like, I got to go check myself in. There's a place around here. You know, it's a state funded place. It's Bark. It doesn't matter, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got to go check myself in. Will you go sit with me? I'm like, yeah, sure. No problem. You know what I'm saying? I'll go sit with you. Like, I'm trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? So I go with him, and we stop in Pompano. And he's like, I just got to grab something real quick. We go into a gas station. I use the bathroom. I come out. This is back before Ubers and Lyfts and all that kind of stuff. We're in a taxi. The cab's going. This kid's like, hey, we just got to go do something real quick. I'm like, all right, sure. And like, sure enough, like I end up going to get high with this kid. And like from there, I was homeless for a while, man. Like I got kicked out.
I always tell people, it's like, dude, your first year clean, you want to be in control of like who's driving and where you're going. Because that's how it happens, bro. That's happened to me so many times where I was like 100% clean.
Yeah.
And someone else was going to go get high or go do something. And I just end up going in the car. And on the way home, I'm high.
Bro, I'm in like a dope hole with this kid. Like, and I'm clean. I'm sitting there like twiddling my thumbs type shit. And this girl comes in and she's like, hey, you want to hit this? Sure. You know what I'm saying? So, and then it was like, I got high. And then I pretty much from there though, after that night, like I stayed clean. And like I was homeless. And I was like going to this meeting every morning. I had found like these like trucks that I was staying in the back of like these like 18-wheelers in this lot. And I'd basically find one that was like unlocked. I'd cracked a little bit, so I had like a breeze. And like I felt safe in there too. You know what I'm saying? Because there's one way in, one way out. You know what I mean? I would know if anyone was like pulling some kind of shit. And I was going to these meetings, and like this dude came up to me after a meeting. It was like 7 a.m, and he's like, hey man, what's your story? Because like I would show up there and like different people would like give me like little day work here and there and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? Like I'd get like a room like for a night. I'd clean up for a little bit. You know, I'd take care of laundry. Like I was like a clean cut homeless person. And I was clean then too. And like this guy was like, yo, what's your story? Like what's going on? And I tell him, I'm like, look, man, here's the deal. Like, you know, I went to treatment, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, let me tell you a story real quick. I'm like, all right, sure. And he's like, man, I first came in these rooms and I started getting clean and I had 62 days clean and I relapsed. And like my sponsor told me you can either make that the best thing that happened or the worst thing that happened. And he's like, and next week I'm coming up on 15 years and I've been clean since.
Wow.
And I start laughing and the guy's like, what the fuck's so funny? And I'm like, I had 62 days when I relapsed. And he's like, no fucking way. I'm like, yeah. He's like, listen, he's like, do you want to come to work for the day? I'm like, all right, sure. You know what I'm saying? So I go with this guy. We go look at this hotel called the Boca Inn. And like, they had these AC units that were old. They were being replaced. And he goes in, he talks to the guy and he's like, hey man, listen, I got the job here. He's like, I told the guy you were my nephew and that you live like 30 minutes north of here and I live 30 minutes south. Can you just stay here while we're doing the job? And I was like, oh shit. And so I did. I stayed there and like I was off the streets. You know
Was
what I mean?
there AC?
Yeah, it was. I was staying in a hotel.
Okay.
I was staying in a hotel, and the dude, what he would do is he would like buy me lunch, and he would like save like what he'd give me some money for dinner and stuff like that. But he would save like what I was supposed to make like off to the side, and like I was taking buses to meetings and doing different things like that. Somehow I ended up at like a meeting at a halfway house in Hollywood, and the dude that was there speaking was actually my temporary sponsor when I first came down to Florida.
Wow.
And he was like, holy fucking shit, Brian? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, I thought you died. He's like, I thought you went back to Jersey and died. I was like, I probably would have if I stayed, you know what I mean? And he became my sponsor at that time, you know what I mean? And at that point, like, he was like, hey man, why don't you come down here, stay in this halfway, I'll give you a job. And I was like, first thing I got to do, man, I got to finish this job with this guy. You know what I mean? Because this guy
Looked out for you.
He looked out for me. Like, he put his head out there for me. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did. I finished a job with him, and I moved down the halfway, and, you know, I stayed clean from there, man. And I stayed clean for a while, you know, and a lot of different things changed. Like, in a matter of, like, I was working for him for like a year, and I was like, you know, like, this isn't for me. Like, construction's great and all, you know what I mean? But, like, I hate saying this, but I felt like I needed more in life. You know what I mean? Like, working for somebody else doing construction, like, you're not going to really get by, you know? And I ended up, like, weirdly enough, like, I'm playing poker and stuff like that. And I was at, like, a house game playing poker one night. This guy was there, and he was like, oh, you know, I used to have a penthouse in South Beach and one in Fort Lauderdale, and I drive my Rolls Royce back and forth and this and that. And, like, you know, I was killing it. And, you know, I'm like, oh, what were you doing? And, like, he was in, like, a weird situation. He was going through a divorce, staying, like, with this younger kid that, like, his dad was in prison. It was a weird, fucked up situation. But, like, he's like, oh, I was a stockbroker. And I was like, oh, man, that's crazy. And he was like, yeah, he's like, my son-in-law, you know, is actually a broker. He's like, why don't you take his number, give him a call? And I'm like, all right, sure. So I called him, and I called him, like, every day for, like, 30 days. And, like, he was like, dude, man, listen, I'm busy. Just call me tomorrow. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll call you tomorrow, whatever. And finally, he was like, yo, do you want to come in? Like, I'll hire you, you know what I'm saying? And I'll teach you, you know what I'm saying? But, like, you know, this is what it is. So I'm like, all right, cool. And so, like, I went in there.
First time doing phone sales?
Yeah, first time doing phone sales. Dude, I go in there, and it's, like, I know you had Jordan Belfort in here before, and that's what it was like, but it was legal. Like, they were selling real shit, and, like, I go in there, there's, like, a board on the wall, like, how much people made. Like, everyone that's walking around there is probably, like, in their early 20s, like, at the oldest, like, 30, except for the owners who were, like, maybe 31, 32, like, and there's, like, a number board, and, like, I see, like, so-and-so, it's, like, the 15th, he's made $40,000 this month, you know what I mean? And the lowest number on that board was, like, 15,000, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? I stayed there, and, like, I was only making $200 a week. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where I said, like, I when I transitioned into, like, a different career, like, I was making $200 a week. Like, yeah, granted, I wasn't killing it doing construction, but, like, I was making enough to pay bills and stuff, you know? So that's what I did. Like, I started doing that, and I got my Series 7. When I tell you, it was literally, like, it was insanity in the fact, like, you had people in there that were, like, they'd make an $80,000 check, and they'd disappear for, like, 5 days. They'd come in, like they were doing blow. They like, some crazy, like, hotel down in South Beach. Like, they'd come in there with, like, 2 hookers, and, like, there was, like, these 2 brothers that worked together. Then, like, they were fist fighting each other, and, like, the one tried to throw the other one out, like, the 11th-story window. And, like, one dude, like, the one owner kept, like, a bowl, like, not a bag, a bowl of blow in his desk.
Wow.
It was nuts, but, like, at that point, like, I was still clean. Like, I worked hard, and different things happened, and, like, so I got my 7. I got my 7, and, like, I pretty much just, like, busted my ass for a while. And then in 2008, when everything happened with, like, the subprime mortgages, my entire book, as well as, like, everyone that I worked with, like, just blew up. And when I say the book, I mean, like, all of our clients and, like, the different positions we had. And I went on to, like, I left the business. It actually cost me almost $25,000 to work that month. And that's because, like, people had went negative in their accounts, and if they didn't cover it, like, you had to. You know what I mean? So it cost me money. And, like, I went and I followed this kid that I got licensed with to go do, like, IPOs at different places. And I follow this kid. We're going to work at this one place. I'm there for, like, 2 months, and, like, certain shit wasn't adding up. Like, I never went there with, like, ill intentions. Like, I was selling an IPO, like, but people weren't getting their stock certs, and I was like, bro, I'm like, this isn't looking good. Like, I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? And, like, he was like, yo, the lady that started this lied to me, and this, that, and the other thing. And, like, we tried to find a way to, like, get out of that safely. You know what I mean? And I left, and, like, and during that time, like, I relapsed.
How much money were you making at this point in time?
This is when the gambling was bad too. Like, when I was doing, like,
you're gambling a lot. Okay.
Well, yeah, but I was still making money though. I mean, I don't know, on, like, a good month, like 30,000. You know what I'm saying? Like 30 to 45,000. But it was never, like, less than 20. You know what I mean? And I'm like 23 years old, 24 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? Like, there was months, like, the biggest month I ever had was like 60 grand. You know what I mean? Which was a lot of fucking money, you know? And for me, it was like, oh, I could go to the casino, and, like, and this is when, like, gambling got bad. I can go to the casino and I could lose 10 grand because, like, I'll make it back next week. I'm saying I'll raise some money. This will happen. That'll happen. And, like, I'll make it back. Yeah. So, but I relapsed, you know what I'm saying? And that's what happened. Like, I was in and out. Like, I put together 6 months. I put together a year, you know, and that's what happened. And then sure enough, in, like, 2011, like, I get a phone call from someone, and they're like, hey man, did you hear so-and-so got arrested? I'm like, nah, for what? And he's like, yo, do you remember that place you worked at in 08? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, so-and-so also got arrested too. And this person did too. And I heard, and at this point, like, I knew different people, you know what I'm saying? So I made a phone call to someone that I knew, and they looked, and they're like, yeah, you got a warrant You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay. So, man, what I did was like, I talked to my sponsor at that time because I was clean. And I was like, he actually worked in the industry before. He was like a bond trader, and he went through like all kinds of stuff back like in the 80s and 90s. And he's like, listen, I got a good attorney for you. You know, he's down in Key West though. I'm like, all right, fine. So I go down there, I drop this guy off some money. I'm on my way back. I get picked up. I bomb myself out. You know, and like I was afraid. I didn't know how this shit worked. Like I kept cash. Like I pulled everything out I had in the bank out. I had all my cash on me. You know what I mean? And I drop this guy some money. I pay my bond, and like I'm out, and like in the back of my mind, I'm like, my life's over. Like I'm fucked. You know what I mean? And right back out that rabbit hole. Like I started using it.
Even though you only worked there for a couple months?
Yeah, I worked there for 2 months in 08, and then 2011, everyone got charged. At this point, like I lose where I'm living, had like a nice townhouse in Fort Lauderdale.
And that's when you relapsed right after that?
After I caught the charges, when I relapsed.
You just figured, fuck it.
Yeah, I figured like everything that I worked for was gone. Like my life was over. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't a fucking point. And I started doing like different shit on the side too. Like I was making money, but then like the drugs basically like took precedence over everything. The attorney that I had, like I moved into like some place, like rented a room, and like, bro, I end up like leaving there. The guy kicks me out. I didn't pay him. And I'm in Hollywood. I gave my car to like a dope boy to like use. It was a fucking brand new Camaro that had like 500 and something horsepower. That shit got wrecked and I didn't even care about it. I had like a street bike at that point. That's it. I was like getting around. I get a phone call from like the dude that I had like rented from, and he's like, yo man, I got some money for you. And I'm like, all right, straight. He's like, where you at? And I tell him I'm like in Hollywood. I'm like at this gas station. And like I'm sitting there, and like when you've been on the streets and stuff like that before, like you're getting high, like you know when there's a weird vibe.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And like I see like these 3 dudes walking, and one guy is like, there's 2 guys walking on the sidewalk, and then there's like this one dude in like a wife beater, like shaved red hair, and like gold's in, and like he's like kind of side-eyeing me, and like he just starts running at me, right? And he like reaches behind his back, and like my first thought is like, what the fuck? So I swing on this guy. I swing on him, and I go to take off running, and it was like they were bounty hunters. Like when I had moved like out of that place, I missed like a traffic hearing. My bondsman didn't know what was going on, like couldn't get a hold of me. Yeah, so I'm in jail. They let me out on like pretrial. I violated pretrial and technical, doing some dumb shit. And what happened was my attorney stepped off my case. I had paid him like 10 of like the 15 that I owed him, but like he didn't feel like he was getting any more money. He stepped off, and they gave me what's called like conflict counsel. So with conflict counsel, basically what they are is they're not PDs, because I had like 8 co-defendants. You know, they all had paid attorneys. The one kid had a PD, and I couldn't have a public defender because of the fact it's like a conflict of interest.
Wow.
So they give me this conflict counsel, and the guy didn't know shit about financial crimes. He was like a sex crimes attorney. And there's like 1,000 pages of depositions. And this guy flat out told me like, listen, I'm at this point where like they won't give me a bond, right? He's like, listen, you either open plea or you go to trial. The state doesn't have an offer. So I'm like, fuck, man, I don't want to go to trial. Like, and I've been down for like almost a year at that point. I'm thinking.
Have they told you like what your sentence could be?
So the bottom of my guidelines was like 56 months, because there was like several different charges, and like one was like first degree, you know what I'm saying? And like it was first degree, like a level 7. There's like different levels in Broward. I think like the higher the number, the stronger it is. You know what I mean? You know, the bottom of my guidelines was like 56 months. And that was like, you know, once you meet a certain point, it's like prison time. So he's like, listen, man, you either open plea or you go to trial. And I'm like, listen, if I go to trial, like they'll probably max me out. I can get fucked. You know what I mean? Even though I didn't go there like on ill intent, like, you know, I'm afraid of that one. I'm not doing it, right? So I open plea. Turns out the guy never asked for an offer. Told me the state didn't have one. I open pled, and like,
you didn't have money for an attorney?
No, my mom didn't have money either. My mom's like, ever since like I was a kid, so like worked like 2 jobs. My dad doesn't do shit. You know what I'm saying? At that point, I was far past 18, obviously. You know what I mean? He wasn't doing shit for me. You know, he kind of like outed me. He wasn't talking to me or anything like that, you know? So I go in there to open plea, and I see the lady who like owned the place, and they give her probation, like house arrest. I'm like, all right, sweet. My attorney's like, yeah, it's probably a good sign. So like I open plea. The judge is like, well, listen, you know, the maximum on your charges is like 96, 96 years if I stacked everything and ran it consecutively. He's like, the bottom of your guidelines, what is it? And the guy was like, 56 months. He's like, all right, well, listen, I'm going to give you 15 years. You know, I would have gave you 30, but your family's here. And I'm like, what the fuck?
It's so crazy to me.
I look back at my mom. My mom's like her face is just blank. She doesn't know what to do. And like my attorney's like, oh man, I fucked up. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I fucked up. And I'm like, what do you mean?
He said that to
you?
you?
He said I fucked up. So like I go back right now, you got to wait a little while before you go to.
Yeah, because I know your story, and it's crazy that lady got probation. She's like the owner of the company.
Oh, everybody got probation.
Yeah.
Everybody got probation. The one kid died who worked there. He actually died. He had like some heart issues. He was on steroids and weird kinds of shit. He ended up dying. But everybody else got probation. I was the only one that got any prison time. And they all had worked out a deal with the state. My attorney walks up to my mom and he says to her too, he says, hey, I fucked up. Like, here's the number for like a guy that knows, dentistry really well. You know what I mean? Maybe he can get him back to mitigate a sentence. So my mom looks into it. My mom's like worked for lawyers since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So she calls this guy.
Didn't you tell me that you also were missing court dates because you were using and stuff like that?
No. So what it was with the court date, like when I got picked up by the bounty hunters, I had a hearing like a week from then. Uh-huh. But I had missed a traffic hearing.
Gotcha.
So he thought that I was going to buck on like on the main hearing. And that's why I got picked up by the bounty hunters. He tells my mom, like, I got this attorney, like, he knows the judge really well, like, maybe he can get something worked out. Mm-hmm. So I go away to prison, you know what I mean? I'm like, I go to South Florida, and then I go to like this place called Charlotte, and I come back on this mitigation. They're like, oh, they granted you a mitigation hearing. My mom like pulled some strings, put together some money, you know what I mean, pays for this mitigation attorney. I come back, I'm like, sweet. And everyone that's there is like, listen, man, if they bring you back for mitigation, like, since the judge granted the hearing, like, he's probably going to do something. You know what I mean? Everyone else got probation. Maybe it was like a scare tactic, like, give this kid some time. Everyone else will plea out. No one will go to trial. Mm-hmm. I'm like, makes sense. You know what I mean? Sure enough, I come back and the judge is like, yeah, listen, man, I don't ever see you paying back any of the money you stole, and I'm going to stick with my 15 years. And he's like, I actually wish I would have given you more time.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay, fuck. And at that point, the stat attorney says to me,
how much money was it?
What?
That you had gotten at that job?
They said that I made like $96,000 in the 2 months that I was there. But it wasn't that much. And I'll tell you why. Like, there was other people that worked there. They had like this queen for a day thing where you go and like you sit with the state. And they asked me a bunch of questions. Like, I wouldn't tell them shit. And that was the problem. Like, everybody else
was cooperating. You weren't.
Everyone else cooperating, yeah. Everyone else was talking, different things like that. And like, so they didn't know there were other people that worked there. And the reason why I made so much was because I would close deals for them, or I would raise money for them. I would get paid, and then I would pay them. So, I mean, did I make $96,000? No. You know what I mean? Probably.
Even then, I mean, $96,000, I mean, you could pay that off. That was crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, dude, the judge was just a dick, man. And here's the crazy thing, right? So they did a news story.
People get like 3 years for rape.
Bro, I was in there with people that got like 10 years for murder, for like manslaughter and shit. Like, one of my friends in there was like, this kid from Miami that like beat somebody to death, that like made a comment to him and his friends like when he was drunk, and they beat the dude to death and rolled him in the Miami River, and he got 15 years.
Wow.
For like, you know what I mean? Like, just wild shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? My bunkie at one of the camps had murdered somebody when he was 17. Mm-hmm. Like, shot him, and basically he got 17 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Right? So anyway, so at that point, that attorney's like, listen, man, this judge is a dick. You got to get a good appeal attorney. And my mom, like, I don't know how she did it. She must have pulled like some crazy high interest, like stupid loans. Cause like I said, she worked like 2 jobs just to, like, pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And she paid with this attorney, man. And this guy was the man. Like, he really was. Like, when I came back for the mitigation, first I came back and we talked about the fact that, like, my attorney was insufficient counsel. Like, that was on my appeal. And there was another different thing too. And like, he even admitted during the hearing that we had that, like, he was like, did you ask for an offer? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I didn't. He's like, did you tell Brian that you didn't ask for an offer? He's like, no, I didn't. He's like, did you tell Brian that they just didn't have one? He's like, yeah. And he's like, and why did you do that and like not ask for one? He's like, I didn't think he would have taken it if they gave it to him. And he's like, but how do you know that if you don't give it to him? He's like, I don't. And he's like, I messed up. And he flat out said it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like, the attorney knew he fucked up. You know what I mean? Was like willing to like be honest about what happened. But there was like other stuff going on with like the Supreme Court and different things like that. So my attorney like kept putting off like different extensions to like wait for my my appeal. Dude, my clean date is actually like when I turned myself in. Because once I violated pretrial, I had to turn myself in. I was getting high. Mm-hmm. So I turned myself in on 1/29/2012. That's my clean date.
2012, that's when you get clean.
That's when I got
clean. You
clean.
don't use that in prison at all.
No. In my mind, like, I had been clean before. I believe in God. I knew like the chance of an appeal being granted is like 2% of appeals are granted. Because you got to think every motherfucker in there
is appealing.
Damn straight. Like, why would you not try to get time back? You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't you? Fuck it. You know what I mean? So only 2% of appeals are granted, and then like only 10% of that 2%, which is like 0.2%, You know what I'm saying? Is like
only 10% of the 2% get granted.
Get like what they're looking for.
Wow.
Like 2% get some kind of grounds, but only like
A significant.
only 10% of that 2% like get what they're looking for. Like, so yeah, so the
What was
first
prison like?
dude, the first camp they sent me to, it was fucking wild. And it was because like when my attorney,
Did they have
like
a water park?
they did, dude. Shit was, that's what I mean. It was actually called Wet and Wild. Yeah, it was in Tampa. It was cool. Like, you know, but the water slide sucked. You know what I mean? And like
The food was
the
bad.
food was horrible.
Lines
Like
were long.
only thing they had was corn dogs. That was, you can only eat so many corn dogs.
Oh my God.
But no. So what happened was my attorney, when he tried to do the whole like open plea thing, he went for like a downward departure, and he basically said like, you know, this guy's an addict. He struggles with mental health and different things like that. So they sent me to like a camp where basically they could keep you or put you on medications if you needed them. The problem was that the camp I went to was called Charlotte CI, and it was also basically a camp, like a CM camp.
What's a CM camp?
So in South Florida, there's a lot of prisons in South Florida, in Florida in general. And basically like a CM camp, it's got like 3 doors. So like there's an open bay where basically like if you walk in and it's like a huge room and there's just like bunk beds everywhere, you know what I'm saying? Then there's like, it's different levels of security. So a CM camp's got like the highest level, level 3, level 4. You know, and what that means is that there's 3 different doors. So like you walk into a building, that's one steel door there. Then there's like a steel door to get into like the pod. And then there's like a door for each cell. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So there's 3 different doors. So, but this camp, there also was a bunch of like, there was CM there too, to where like people from other camps that were like open bay and like different levels would like stab people or get into a fight or like get caught with a phone or, you know, some like K2 or like cigarettes or different things like that. And they would get sent there. It was wild. It was like a gangland. They would do different things like where
Is there
basically
AC there?
no AC,
No AC.
dude. There's only like 2 camps in Florida that had AC.
That's so.
South Bay and Moorhaven.
It's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Dude, it's fucking,
Whenever, like, I always ask because it blows my, like, I know there's not AC,
Yeah.
but it's just like you got, like, my brain doesn't understand.
bro. Imagine sitting there. It's
You
like,
wouldn't let a dog outside.
it's July.
all day, you know what I
It's
mean?
like, let's say it's July, right? It's fucking 98 degrees outside, straight sun. You know what I mean? And then the concrete and the steel roofs just suck up that fucking heat. The walls are sweating, and you'd walk into a building and like you're just sweating. And like that camp, because it was like a CM camp, like everyone would get sent there for doing fucked up shit, and then they'd stay on that camp. And like it was like a matter of like, I would say like once per week, someone was getting life flighted out of there. Like you'd be in line to like go to like lunch, and like someone would walk by you and fucking smash somebody in the head with a fucking lock, or like $150 somebody and like straight up just take a line down the side of their face, or like get stabbed, or like I saw some wild shit when I was there. You know what I mean? And like I had to get in, like I got into a couple of different fights. You know what I'm saying? But it was a matter of, because like people would try you. The good thing is like I'm not a small guy. You know what I mean? Like there's like people that go in like I'm not a big guy either, but like I'm 5'11", like 205. You know what I mean? So but there's people that like go in there and they're like, you know,
5'4".
no, but they're like 5'10" and they're like 140 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and it's all about how like you carry yourself too. Like before I went there, I was told like 3 different things. Like you stay away from the 3 Gs: gays, gangs, and gambling. You know what I mean? And that was a fact. Like if you did gamble, you paid your debts. You know what I mean? The gays, you just don't fuck with them because there's always some kind of drama attached to them. Even if like you're not gay or you're not trying to slide down that street, like you just don't do business with them. You don't do anything like that. You know what I mean? Then the gangs, I mean, if you sign up for that life, like shit's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, you know, the only thing I did in there was I smoked cigarettes. And like I had a good bunkie that was like, he was the head of the Kings for South Florida. And he was kind of like my plug. And like I ended up getting a job like in the law library. And like, so I would kind of go do drops and stuff like that for him. But like I stayed off the radar, and that's what it was, you know. And then I ended up getting like shipped up to the Panhandle. I was up there for a little while, and I put in a good transfer to go down to like Everglades in South Florida. And like, I'll never forget, man, like I was there, and this is like, I'm going on like year 5.
Wow, you've been there 5 years already?
Been there like 5 years.
In your mind, don't think you're getting out? Or do you
I
think
don't
you're
know.
getting out?
Like, I mean, I'm hopeful. You know what I mean? I got faith. And that's kind of like why I didn't get high when I was in there. Like, how can I ask God to help me if I wasn't helping myself? And like, if you're in there, like I saw a lot of people like on some crazy wild shit, just like, you know, just get all fucked up and like dumb shit happen. And like I said, and you know, it just wasn't where my mind was at. You know what I mean? I knew that had I stayed clean when I got those charges, I wouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? And I also believe that going to prison saved my life, as crazy as that sounds, because I was on a bad path. So I'll never forget, right? So like I said, my mom worked for attorneys, every Wednesday and every Friday they put out the decision like for different appeals. Mm-hmm. And I'd ask her to like send me different things, different books, different stuff like that. You know what I mean? I read a lot of books when I was down. And I had asked her like about like, I'm into cars. You know what I mean? I had asked her, and I remember this. I was like, hey, can you send me the information on like the GMC typhoons and cyclones? Which I don't know why. I remember that. And she was like, listen, you need to stop worrying about those fucking cars and like worry about your appeal. And I'm like, oh, fuck, my heart dropped. You know what I mean? Because I knew every Wednesday and every Friday she checked. Mm-hmm. And she's like, your appeal got granted. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? She was like, yeah, your appeal got granted. And I'm like, holy shit. And like I'm tearing up thinking about it now. Because like at that point, like it was wild. She was like, listen, here's the deal. Like it got granted today. I'm sure I'll hear from Jason. You know, you may hear from him, you may not, but, you know, call me back on like Monday.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I'm like, all right. So I call her on Monday and she's like, yeah. She's like, listen, the prosecutor, Jason called and told me what happened. And he said the prosecutor called him and was like, congrats on winning Brian's appeal. Like even the prosecutor knew I got fucked. Mm-hmm. And like the crazy thing is with that judge, like they put out different articles, different things about like he was wild. Like he gave like a child rapist like 2 years. He gave like this one lady who violated probation with like not calling like or from her job or something like that, like 10 years, wow. Even though the state wanted to give her like probation again. Like he gave one dude that was like for like assault and battery, like gave him like, I think it was like 6 months in the county jail. And then when he got out, like he did it again and he gave him like probation, like weird shit. Like he just didn't give a fuck. And like with me, like so he got voted off the bench while I was down. So what happened was, the prosecutor calls my attorney and he's like, hey man, congrats on winning Brian's appeal. Like, what do you want? He's like, what the fuck do you mean what I want? Like time served. Like everybody else did 5 years probation. This fucking kid got 15 years and he's been down for 5. Yeah. So I came back and like, I'll never forget that feeling, man. Like we had a mutual friend.
I had seen you around prior when you were clean last time.
Yeah.
But I remember when we went to Chris's house and that's like the first time I met you. When did you get out of prison? How long were you out of prison then?
I just got
days?
out. No, like I just got out, I think. I literally.
Wow, really?
Like, I think when I saw you that day, I got out like that morning.
Wow. You know what's so funny is that you're still saved in my phone as Brian Fresh Out.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think you said it or someone said like, oh, it's Brian, he's fresh out.
Yeah. And like, so what happened was like, so with him, like it was crazy. Like I was still at Charlotte, you know what I mean? And like they did like printouts back then because things have changed since then. Like they have like tablets now and different things but then they didn't have that. You just got like a printout like each week of like what you had in your account. You know what I mean? And like there was money in my account. I'm like, what the fuck? And like I look and I see the name and it was from Chris.
He put money in your account when?
Like when I was in prison.
Like right before you got out or the whole time?
No, like probably like 2 years before I got out.
Wow.
I ended up getting like I had my mom look up his number on like Facebook and I called him from his cell phone in there and he's like, look, man, like I know you got fucked. Like, cause I've known Chris, like him and I went to treatment together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like a long ass time ago. And then what happened was like when I was becoming a stockbroker, he was starting the billing thing.
The billing. Wow.
So it's like I've known him for like I remember when he got his first Acura TL like that. Wow. He was so gassed about that fucking car, bro.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he's a car guy.
Yeah, he's a car guy. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, look, man, I know you got fucked. You know what I'm saying? And like things are going really well from out here. Like if everything goes good with your appeal, like I'll help you out when you get out. And like I'm thinking, okay, people are full of shit, you know what I'm saying? But like whatever. So sure enough, like when I got out, like I remember they let me out like 2:30 in the morning. It was like December 2nd. Mm-hmm. You know, I walked like the bus stop there, the bus station in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm sitting there and I walked into a Walgreens. My mom had put like $30 in my account, so I had some cash in my pocket when I got out just to like get something to eat and stuff, a pack of cigarettes. I remember just sitting there on the corner and watching cars drive by, and it was like the best feeling ever. I can't describe that feeling. Like when you've been down for like 5 years and you know that like I should have been there or I could have been there for another 10, like, you know what I mean? The next morning, like he came and picked me up. He actually lived he lived in Fort Lauderdale at that time. You know, he came and picked me up and he helped me out. You know, he helped me out a little bit, but like he gave me enough to where like I had a roof over my head, but he also gave me the option of like, listen, I can get you a job here and different things like that. So that's what I did. Like I started doing that, started doing other things as well, like car related and just, I don't know, man, it's been a ride.
Wow.
You know, I say it's been a ride because, you know, a lot of shit's happened like since then.
Yeah, you know what I remember is, I think I remember like, dude, this must have been like 3 or 4 years of sponsoring you, of you just like struggling to like be happy with what you had and trying to like gain like the things that you had back then.
Dude, and it was like, it was an ego blow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember you being like, you know, I just know that like you knew you had so much potential and you like working these shitty jobs or things that you know, working like jobs you didn't love, you were just like, you were grateful and happy, but there's like something in you that was just like, you could just tell like you didn't feel like you were living the life you were supposed to be living.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the thing too, is like, I remember it was Thanksgiving Day, 2017. So I had been out for less than a year. You and I and a bunch of other people did like a homeless food drive in Fort Lauderdale. And I came back, and what happened was I ended up like, I was on the phone with my girlfriend at the time. And when I was in prison before I went to prison, I came back from mitigation and I had like a seizure. And like they brought me to the hospital and different stuff like that. Yeah. So I had like stress-related seizures or whatever. And like I was so stressed out about fucking everything else, right? So I came back and like I'm on the phone with my girlfriend at the time. I put like a pizza in the oven. And like I lived like this shitty little apartment. Put like a pizza in the oven. And like she said, all of a sudden I started stuttering and like I dropped the phone. And she didn't know what was going on. She kept calling back. Like she had the ambulance come there. And apparently like I had like wedged myself between like the door of the bathroom and like the toilet. Like I was having like back-to-back seizures. The apartment's filled with smoke. The pizza's on fire in the oven. Oh my God. And like
I remember this was nuts.
Yeah, it was fucking wild, man. Yeah, you know, so I mean, I don't know. Since then, man, it's like, I'm grateful, man. Like I know that like even now, like I shouldn't be sitting here. Like my release date was 9/11/2026. You know what I mean? Wow. So like I'd still be down for like another 3 years. You know what I mean? So when I got out, and like I know this now, like because when I got out, like even though I had 5 years clean at that point, or I was coming up on 5 years, like I realized like how hard it is for the newcomer. Because even though I had time, like I'd go to different meetings, people were clicked up, people were going to do different things, and like I was by myself.
Yeah, it takes time, man. I always tell people like, dude, you can't expect to, you know, have the same relationships people have that have known each other for 10, 15, 12 years, you know, when, you know, you've just been coming around. It's like, dude, it's not that we're clicked up or whatever. It's like, bro, we've known each other for so long. It's almost been halfway together, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, like even now, like, you know, me and Carl, we both have like nice cars and whatever. And people might think that like we're friends because we have nice cars. But it's like, bro.
You've known each other since like high school, bro.
Yeah,
or like before that.
Pretty much. Yeah. So it's like, bro, I've known him so long. He used to pay for all my meals when I lived in my parents' house, you know? Like I remember like his first nice car was like the Infiniti M40 or whatever it was. Yeah. And like I just seen him. When you see people now, it's like you see how long it took them to get the things that they have and to have the relationships that they have, you know?
Yeah. And you know, like,
and it's like, bro, even now, like sometimes people are like, yo, we should get lunch or whatever. And it's like, man, I need to get lunch with people that I've been friends with for 10 years that I haven't seen in so long. You know, it's like, bro, it's hard for me to like really spend time with new relationships when like I have ones that I've had for so long that I've been neglecting, you know?
Yeah, mine being one of them.
Exactly, it is. Yeah.
You know, and granted, I mean, the phone works two ways. Yeah. You know, but the good thing is this, is that like, you know, I know that if I'm ever in a bind, if I call you back to back,
oh, for sure,
you're going to answer because you know, like, I don't do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know something's really fucking going on. Mm-hmm. It's wild though, man, because now that like I'm at where I'm at recovery-wise, like I said before, like it's
you
like
did kill it on your steps. I gotta say that, like, dude, you worked through your steps really, really fast, and then you slacked off like the last three.
I slacked off the last three.
But dude, you did a lot of work. You did a lot of writing.
You know, and that's the thing too, is that like I don't want to happen what happened before. Like what happened the first time I relapsed was I put money, property, and prestige over my primary purpose. Like I was making really good money.
Period.
Like I was like, you know what I mean? I stopped going to meetings. Like I had a sponsor, but I never called him. You know what I mean? And sure enough, like, you know, I'm going out to like downtown Fort Lauderdale. This is back like when like Los Olos was like popping back then, or Riverfront was like popping back then. You know what I mean? There was like all kinds of clubs. It wasn't like a
family thing.
Yeah, no. Like Riverfront was like wild back then. Yeah. And like I knew different people that worked different places, and like, you know, eventually I started drinking. And then I don't like alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm doing drugs, you know, and then shit got bad. And like I knew like this time and like from what happened before, like what I had to do. So now it's like I have a home group I go to every week. And because I go to it every week, if I don't go a week, someone calls me. Yeah. They're like, hey, what's up? You all right?
Accountability.
Yeah, accountability. It's what it is, man. And like for me, I think the one thing that I do need to do more is like I need to do more service. I need to like pick up a commitment somewhere or something. I know.
I want to do GICNA next year, like be on the GICNA subcommittee.
I want to do an H&I. Yeah. I think that I'm at this point now where like they'll let me into jails and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I think that'd be cool for me.
Bro, there's no better feeling than speaking at a jail.
Bro, there's not. Especially if I could be like, yo, like I was fucking there many times too. Cause like I catch like little bullshit charges and stuff like that. Like nothing crazy until this one, but like I catch like little charges and like, dude, I've done that. And, like I'm gonna tell you right now, like I do things differently this time, man. Like I have a home group. I still go to 2 or 3 meetings a week. Like I try to help the newcomer. Granted, like now, like I don't feel out when I go to meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Like the good thing was this, and I think what kept me around was that because I had time before, like I would see people that knew me, like from back then, and they're like, "Holy shit, man! Like, what's up, man? How you doing?" You know what I mean? And they like kind of take me in. Like that's been like a main factor, was like, just trying to get plugged in. So like now, like I try to do things differently. You know what I mean? Like if I don't want to go to a meeting, I do. I don't call you that often, but like, I still call you.
Yeah.
I still call you.
All right. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I love you very much. Very proud of you.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to finish your last step tonight.
All right, man. Love you too, bro.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.